Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming today. The conference is going to be opened by Lord David Willetts, but he's not in the room, so we're just going to pass over to him. David, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Gavin. And I'm very sorry not to be with you physically in person this morning, but I'm delighted to open this conference, Leadership in Tomorrow's World. So welcome to those of you who are physically present, but also I know we have online participants as well who are also very welcome. It's organised by the Foundation for Science and Technology, which I chair, and which is a neutral platform which brings together science, technology, innovation, and public policy. So we both want to understand how the world of science and technology is moving forward. But in all of our events, we then try to link that to what policymakers should do, how we inform policymakers, how we strengthen links between science, technology, and policy. This event today is supported by the Worshipful Company for Scientific Instrument Makers, by Rolls-Royce and by KPMG, and we're very grateful to them for their support. What we try to do, and have now been running for 3 years, is this Foundation Future Leaders scheme, which is a cohort of early to mid-career professionals from all across the science and technology community. It's a fantastic cohort that is now coming together, and it's this cohort, this year's cohort, who have, of course, planned this event. And that is fantastic. We're going to have a wide range of speakers. We're going to be discussing a range of tricky issues. The three main sessions today, of course, are on the big picture, on net zero, and on careers, which is a legitimate and important concern for early to mid-career professionals, exactly the group we're targeting. Now, Gavin asked me just to set the scene by reflecting on one or two of current topics in science and technology policy. So just in 5 minutes, I thought I would briefly summarize what I think are the key issues and developments at the moment. It's obviously going to have to be very selective. First, I'm sure many of you will have seen one of the most dramatic revisions of national economic data, which we have seen from the Office of National Statistics for quite a while. Their new estimate that as a percentage of GDP, R&D spend is not about 1.7%, 1.8%, which has been the accepted statistic for many years, but is actually, they now estimate, running at 2.4% of GDP, which would put it pretty much on the OECD national average. Now, that is a really interesting development. The figures are not yet completely robust, but it does look as if they have been systematically underestimating R&D activity by SMEs. And that significantly changes the debate. And there is an important challenge for the science and technology community, which is, sadly, Britain is now a relatively low productivity country. If we really are close to the OECD average for science and technology R&D spend, but are below average on productivity, then what more do we need to do to extract maximum value and impact from the R&D we do carry out? Of course, 2.4% is still quite low. It's the average, but there are a lot of prominent key countries that are way above that, from the US and Japan to Korea and Germany. But even so, I think it requires a reframing of the debate, and that's just started. First observation. Secondly, of course, the continuing frustration that we have not been able fully to associate with Horizon Europe, the EU Science and Technology Programme, and a very lively debate inside government and outside as to whether we will be able to associate, which in turn involves solving the deadlock around the Northern Ireland Protocol, or whether we should give up on the prospects of association and instead go to what's called Plan B, which is spending the money currently allocated for Horizon Europe, but unspent because we can't associate, and instead putting that into new domestically designed programs. Though these would be programs that also involve significant international collaboration and participation. One of the great historic advantages of European programs such as the ERC, the main European Research Council spend, is that when Britain does well on that, we're not marking our own homework. This is an independent Europe-wide organization allocating funding and prioritizing research programs, often led by, and even more often with participation by British researchers. So there's a very lively issue, because at the moment, the money is neither being spent on Horizon Europe, nor is it being spent on the Plan B. And at some point, if it doesn't go on either of those programs, it'll go back to the Treasury. So that's the second topic. The third one I would mention, it's a particular interest of mine because I chair the UK Space Agency, is we have got the European Space Agency Ministerial coming up, which meets once every 2 years and sets out a program for space R&D spend. And it's quite interesting. It's an area where, although we have in the UK Space Agency some national capability, we actually really use the European Space Agency as the main vehicle for doing science and technology assessment of UK programs. An interesting, unusual, and rather effective model, actually. Now, I could carry on. I could talk about what we should do about semiconductors, the review of the fab in the south of Wales that is for sale and where a buyer wishes to step in. To what extent, especially after increasing tensions between China and Taiwan, we need European or even UK compound semiconductor capability, and what more we can do in that space, and whether we can link what we're doing on the physical side with compound semiconductors to our agenda and pursuit of quantum and photonics, bringing together hardware and software in an innovative way. So I could go on, but all this, I think, reveals why we need you, participants in this conference, so much, because we want to make sure that policymakers benefit as much as possible from the expertise, not just of the wise, distinguished people who are at the top of the science and technology community and the leading academic bodies and associations, but also people who really are probably actually doing the cutting edge research in early and mid-career. So we need your voices to be heard. It's important that we brief you on where public policy stands, but above all, it's important that you advise us on how we can do that better. So thank you all very much indeed for your participation in the conference today, and I wish you all the best for a very successful and lively event. Thank you very much.